Overwatch is possibly my favorite game of all time. I started out as the most casual player you can imagine. I played on console, unranked only, never even played another first-person shooter for more than 5 hours. Then I learned that my high school had a team, tried out, and I was sucked into the world of esports. In the years that I've been playing, I've enjoyed Overwatch through all perspectives: casual, ranked, and organized play, and even just as a spectator. With that in mind, and with the newly announced beta just around the corner, I want to give all my thoughts on what we know so far about Overwatch 2. First of all, I want to say that I'm not a big fan of the way Blizzard handled development on this one. You know how when Overwatch was brand new, everyone was comparing it to Team Fortress 2 because a lot of the abilities and game modes in Overwatch took, let's say, light inspiration from Team Fortress 2? Yeah, well, since the Overwatch 2 announcement, it seems like the Overwatch team has taken inspiration from TF2 again. This time, from their content release strategy, which is to say you might get some cosmetics if you're lucky. It would have been nice to get at least some content sprinkled along the way. No, not deathmatch maps, please. Or even just glimpses into what the team was working on every couple months. Even if that ended up getting completely scrapped, it would be nice to just have some measure of progress and something new to talk about. But we can't change what already happened, and what's important is that from now on, things seem like they're going to be different. Thankfully, we already know what's coming in the first round of the beta. 5 versus 5, the new Damage Hero Sojourn, the new push game mode, several new maps, lots of balance changes and reworks, a ping system, and all the other little graphics and engine improvements. And somehow, people are still complaining about the amount of content in this beta. This is a lot. This is fundamentally different from the game we currently have. Any of these changes on their own, if they had not been released with the Overwatch 2 label, would be enough to tide players over for weeks, if not months. People seem to be treating it like the content in this beta is the only thing that Blizzard have gotten done since announcing Overwatch 2, even though that is clearly not the case. Disregarding all the other features that they've publicly announced will be in the game, Blizzard have plenty of reasons not to include every single feature in this first beta. They need to save some reveals to hype up future betas and eventually the full release. Limiting the number of features allows them to keep up with the player feedback and make substantial changes even within the limited duration of the alpha and beta periods. Also, the Overwatch League, the professional official esport, is being played on this version, so they need to have time to get things pretty balanced by the time it starts in early May. And also, too many changes at once can make it difficult to track down the cause of any problems. What if the game did feel unbalanced? Do we know if that's any specific heroes causing it? A fundamental issue? The more factors you introduce, the more possible issues you have to check, and the longer it takes players to reach a consensus. And there are probably several other reasons besides those, behind the scenes as well. So I'm going to go with a bit of a hot take here and say I'm actually glad they didn't include more in this beta. In future beta periods, I think the ideal would be to stick with adding roughly the same amount of new content each time. But my guess is that it'll slow down a little bit until a bigger content drop with the final release. Currently, Overwatch sort of has several distinct identities between different groups of players. Casual and ranked play are fairly distinct from one another. Within ranked play, there are several subcategories based on what rank you actually are, and then in another category all its own is organized or tournament play, where you're regularly practicing and playing with the same teammates. Each of these can be fun for their own reasons, so based on what we know about Overwatch 2, how will the casual competitive spectrum be affected? One thing that I love about Overwatch is that now that I'm so familiar with it, when playing as a hero I know well, I can act on instinct more than anything. The feeling of each of your abilities being second nature, knowing exactly how to work, and being able to use them accordingly is something that's hard to describe, but it's something that's really, really cool to me as a player. At the same time, I love the ability to be creative with your abilities in situations that you've never seen before. At any given moment in time within Overwatch, there are countless possible choices you can make. There's so much depth to the game that you will never be perfect, and there's always something you can do better. The moments that force you to think, and to think fast, complement the moments of learned mastery over your hero to make a game that feels infinitely unique and rewarding. On paper, Overwatch 2 should enhance both of those things. It's a more streamlined version of the game, more freedom to use your abilities while taking away limiting factors. One less source of damage, one less target to have to heal, less crowd control restricting your movement. Tank characters are affected by even less crowd control. Damage characters have a speed boost to get into position and chase more easily. Supports now heal out of combat, meaning they don't have to leave to go find a health pack or pull away the other support's attention. The focus is now more solidly on the things that make each character feel unique, their abilities. The piece that gets left by the wayside a little bit more is the cooperative aspect of Overwatch. It's not going away completely by any means. There will still be synergies in the game, and you will still have to communicate and move in sync at higher levels. But the deepest levels of cooperation and macro level strategy, the kind of thing that really only starts to emerge in organized play where teams are the most coordinated, will now not quite be as deep. The average player probably won't notice anything on this front, but if you do happen to play in that more organized environment, Overwatch 2 looks to be shifting the focus to allow individual mechanical ability to be supplemented by team play, and not the other way around like in the current game. The end result is that you get fewer moments like these.
They're finding their enemy. The teleportation for the Bastion. That is such
that is clever
move.
repositioning
So
here from
clever.
Battle.
Love seeing that. The skill level in our league has gone up so high over the last year. This is fantastic. Look at
we can see this, the rotating Bastion. He's able to move and sit in the same
what
spot.
Am I watching
what an
right
incredible
now?
idea here
What
as
am
our
I
first
set
of games here.
What am I watching? This is a 200 IQ play.
And more moments like these.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Mana. Heroes never die. Help me. This'll help.
As someone who also really enjoys this type of play, it'll be sad to see some of that cooperation go, but ultimately I think it will be healthier for the game. Newer, less experienced players and more veteran casual players will find the game far more accessible, and the highest tier of players will just have to shift their mindset slightly. Of course, this is all theoretical because we haven't seen the game yet. Maybe I'm completely wrong, or maybe we somehow get the best of both worlds, or maybe the balancing sucks and it's all ruined. Who knows? To wrap up my thoughts, here's a quick list of things that I'd like to see at some point in Overwatch 2, in no particular order. These things range from borderline essential to extremely unlikely but game-changing to just nice little bonus features. More unique support characters, preferably at least one in the second beta. Baptiste was the last support added. Support currently has the fewest heroes, and between the Orisa and Doomfist reworks, it will basically feel like they added new tank heroes in this first beta here. That means support is kind of the neglected role here. Maybe I'm biased as a support main, but it feels like we desperately need some new variety to the role. On that note, I am a little worried about supports in general. One less tank supposedly splits their attention less, but it's also another line of defense missing. Add to this the supposed healing nerfs and the flat buff to all damage heroes, and they just feel more and more like sitting ducks. So just make supports feel not terrible to play, I guess is my request here. Better spectator tools. For example, the replay viewer has this function where you can preset camera angles and then jump to them later while watching with a single button press. Wouldn't it be nice if you could do that live during a match too? Save camera angles on a map-by-map basis ahead of time, then you can quickly jump to some nice cinematic shot of the action during the game. More tools like these for broadcasters to play with can level up the production value of amateur leagues and tournaments significantly. More custom game workshop features. The creativity of custom game creators is incredible. And with all the new features and engine updates coming with Overwatch 2, surely there are some fun things they could add. What would be absolutely insane is if they gave access to all PvE content as well and let you make custom games based on those features. Extremely unlikely, but a map editor would be crazy. Community-made maps could breathe so much new life into the game, and the best ones could even be added directly into competitive rotation or, at very least, custom games. However, the Overwatch team has long stated that they'd like to do a map editor, but simply never had the technology for it. But then again, you'd think maybe seeing as they redesigned the engine for Overwatch 2, they might have put the foundations in place, at least for something like that to be added in a future update, even if it's years down the line. Another competitive game mode. The push game mode may honestly be the part I'm most excited for in Overwatch 2, at least on the PvP front. There's some variety between maps in the current game modes, but eventually you kind of run out of unique designs that still feel fair, and the maps within each mode start to feel very samey. Overall, I am cautiously optimistic about Overwatch 2. I think based on what the developers have shared so far, it has incredible potential, but in order to get the community back on board with it, they have to get it right and actually live up to that potential. Just by doing these betas, I think they're setting themselves up for success here, but Overwatch will be completely different by the time it's finished. As someone who's devoted so much time to the current game, I can't help but worry a little bit about big fundamental changes like these. At the same time, after our patience has been tested so many times, it's a huge relief to finally know for certain that we will get our hands on the game soon, and this time not just Blizzard soon. Regardless of whether it's good or bad, I'm excited just to have the chance to try it. And if it sucks, there's always Paladins.